Again. I'm long-winded, so
Yes.
bear with me.
Completely fine.
The other thing I want to mention is a lot of our stuff comes from a source book, and one of the, like we do training based off of historical training. Mm-hmm. The guys wrote it down, we try and follow it. One of the things that one of the old instructors said, Meyer, was when you're teaching swordsmanship, you're taking on an impossible task, because for everything that you say, there's an exception, and for every action I teach you, there's a counter. So I have to ask a little bit of patience when I teach you stuff, because very often what I find, and what he mentioned in his books, is students try to attack the instructor to see if they can get around the thing that I'm currently trying to teach. In combat, that's exactly what you should do.
In training, not as much, yeah.
Right, but when I'm doing training, my goal is to give you a tool. I want to make sure you understand that tool. Mm-hmm. Now, later classes may say that that's not a perfect tool. In fact, they may even say that's not a tool you want to go to. My class structure is things based on order. So I may teach you something that is initially what you should do, and then later on in your swordsmanship, you're like, I should never do that because I have this other thing that's better. But you need to learn the fundamentals, and even when you learn something is bad, you need to go through the steps of, in order to sort of progress and understand why it's bad.
Of course.
So, we'll teach in this, the first thing right here is anatomy of the swords, and then I'll go into how you hold it in the stance. I'm going to teach you one way to hold the sword. I'm going to, quote unquote, like a right basic way.
Right.
There are several different ways based on the different swords and the different handles of the swords, and along with everything else that I teach. I'm not saying the other ways are wrong. I'm trying to teach you a good base to start from.
Of course.
And I will explain why it's a good base. Then from there, if you grab other tools, you're more comfortable with them from other teachers, other schools of training, you're more than welcome to use them. I'm not trying to twist your arm. I'm trying to provide you tools.
Fully understand.
I say that one just to hopefully avoid the constant dynamic I often get with people trying to beat me while I'm trying to teach a subject. And the other side of that is there is some reason I'm teaching you what you're teaching, so if you focus on that for now, even if you see an obvious exploit, we will probably get to the exploit later, but that's not the lesson we're on.
Right.
Okay, so I'm going to cover first anatomy of a sword, and this is kind of obvious for anyone who's looked at a sword. Most little boys know the parts of a sword early on, but there's some things to consider here. So first off, we're going to start with the pommel. So the primary point of a pommel is a counterbalance for the weight of the sword. It changes and shifts the point of balance and how the sword handles. If you take this pommel off and then try and wield the sword, it'll feel really heavy and tip heavy. Mm-hmm. The second thing is, depending on the sword and the type of pommel, they can be used as a grip. So some of them you hold on the pommel, some of them you won't. Particularly, you see one over there, we have one that's a round sphere that goes in the palm of the hand.
Yes. Yeah.
Right. The bottle stopper one's over there, you pinch at the top, and this can kind of go a little bit either way. Some you'll hold over, okay? The third thing with the pommel is that you can hit people with it. It's somewhat effective.
Yeah, I can imagine.
As a point of note for sparring, we don't score points for that. But it's a really great distraction. When you hit somebody in the face, you can then follow through with a sword swing. Right, so cross guard. Straightforward. The basic gist is that it protects your hands, right? It keeps the sword from striking down on the sword if you had it up. Mm-hmm. The other thing is if you have your sword out, I can catch your sword with my cross guard and displace your sword.
Ooh.
So it can be used to grip and control the opponent's blade.
Huh.
Another thing along with that is like form breaks. So if you have your sword out and then I catch your sword, I can then push this into your wrist and then break the structure of your wrist, right?
Yeah.
Feel how that's got your arm controlled?
Yeah.
So for the sake of manipulating your weapon, but also manipulating your body. And then the other thing is if I like strike, I can actually hit you with a cross guard just like I could with the pommel. Okay, so again, you wouldn't score a point, but it would be pretty distracting to get hit in the face.
Yeah.
Okay. Next part, pretty obvious, the grip. The grip or handle of the sword, the simple thing is this is where you hold the sword. But along with that, we also use it in grappling. If I, for example, you had your sword this way, we strike into each other's sword. I can bring this over and then catch your neck and then pull you over.
Oh, jeez. Okay.
You can feel how that causes a loss of balance. We have a grappling class later on where we do several different
Hell yeah.
grapples with it.
Heck yeah. I'm sorry.
But suffice to say, you can use it for grappling's sake. The other thing is, often the handle is large enough that there's like a space, right? So if you strike at me with your sword real slow, I can even catch this sword with the guard here. Now,
And then come down with that.
just like you just did, it can slide up and hit my hand. I don't recommend blocking with a handle, but it's not uncommon for someone to swing down and actually hit between the two hands. This means the sword doesn't strike me. If you're hit there, I'm going to push off and use it to protect myself.
Of course.
You won't have struck me, so I'm fine. So incidentally, when you block with it, it's better. And under very rare circumstances, you might actually deliberately use it. But for the most part, that's not going to be a function that you're going for. All right, so now we're going to talk about the blade. And the first thing I want to talk about is the strong and the weak. Now, in this first day one class, there are three things that are extremely important they'll be important from now until your very last day doing anything with the sword. Mm-hmm. The strong and the weak is one of them. It's the first one. It's probably, I want to say it's the most important, but it's hard to gauge with these. The weird thing with sword classes and swordsmanship is, in the grand scheme of things, everything I teach you today is the most important thing I will teach you. And as we go, classes tend to be less important and more niche. Your first 8 classes are going to be what you call your basics and fundamentals.
Fundamentals, yeah.
And as I say with most martial arts, fundamentals are extremely
essential.
important. They're, yes, essential. And if you have weak fundamentals, whatever else you know is useless.
Absolutely.
In that regard, even in these first 8 classes, this is by far the most important because of these 3 things. So, we talk about the strong and the weak, okay? The strong is the part of the blade closest to the cross guard, okay? The weak is basically the point. There's a couple of different ways it's measured depending on technique and all that they talk about. Sometimes they talk about the strong third of the blade and the weak third of the blade, dividing the blade up across this way, right? So you have the middle, the strong, and the weak. The most important part of the strong and the weak is leverage. So if you provide your strong out, all right, if you push your blade into my strong as hard as you can, everything you got, full body, nothing's happening, right? Now, inverse of this, I'm going to put my weak on your strong, and then you're going to just hold that form. In fact, if you want to do it with one hand, you can do that. And then I'm going to...
Oh, okay, I see.
So it's not that I'm super strong and able to hold you, okay? And I wanted to prove that to you. When you're blocking with a sword, your placement on the opponent's blade is super important, okay? If I have this position on your blade, no matter how hard you try and push, I can easily push this over.
Yeah.
Right. I'll have control. I'll be able to displace your sword. This is where they talk about swordsmanship being a skill over a strength thing. Strength is useful. There are applications for it. But if you use the right form and catch the opponent's blade on your blade in the right location, you will always overpower them. And it's a matter of a scale that adjusts. So if I slide down to here, middle, and push, you'll feel the resistance, right?
Yeah.
If I push up here, I'm easily going to control. And if you slide up, then you're going to push me over.
Yeah.
So, strong and weak, extremely important to understand and grasp that concept, grasp the idea that if you feel like you're being overpowered, it is not because you are weaker, it is because your sword is in the wrong place on the other person's sword.
Fair.
Okay. The next thing we have is the distal taper. So if you notice here, there's a little notch on the blade. And then if you look at the tip, you'll see that the end is fatter here, right? Because they spatulated this tip. So this sword gets more narrow as it goes down to this gap right here. Then it goes back to the full for just this little bit. This narrowing of the blade is called the distal taper. Okay, it's meant to pull weight from the blade and give it a sharper cutting edge if it was a sharp weapon.
Right.
But primarily, the biggest concern is that the weight is pulled back. Okay, this puts a greater amount of the mass on this side. Also, this is called the fuller groove. This fuller groove is also cutting weight from the blade, and it acts as like creating two bars out of the sword, so it keeps a rigid structure. Some will have like a triangle shape, so it has a rigid bar in the middle, but this fuller groove acts as if it's like two bars, giving it a good strength to the blade, but also cutting weight. Again, bringing the point of balance further back, okay? So speaking of point of balance, we have those two objects, and then we also have the pommel. You constantly see people in stores doing this little feel for where the balance of the sword is, okay? A point of balance on the sword determines how the sword feels in weight. A quick thing that I like to do I have these two swords. They're the same height. They're the same mold, same shape. I want you to...
Does the tape mark the different points of balance?
No.
Oh, okay.
But if you tip this one in your hand this way...
Okay.
All right. And this is the same template for the sword. All right. You feel that difference?
Yeah.
Okay. So the point of balance on this one is roughly about 3 inches. That one's going to be closer to 6, 8. Yeah, I think it's a little bit more in here.
In here? Okay.
Yeah, you can see the handle tip that way.
Yeah. Oh, goodness.
But pretty close to that. Okay, so that's about 6. So this point of balance is literally half of what that one is. And the difference is that if you notice that this blade
Doesn't have the groove, and this one does.
It doesn't have the fuller groove or the distal taper. If you notice the spatulated end, this one is wide. This is the same width here as it is down there. You can see that there's the notch here.
Yes.
Where they put the distal taper. So without a distal taper and a fuller groove, even with the same pommel, this has a 3-inch point of balance and it has a 6. That means that if I take these swords away from you further back, you can't tell the difference between these swords looking at them based off of which one is heavier, which one is lighter.
Right.
You need to know more about the blade profile and design.
Of course.
Okay? And that point of balance isn't a bad and good, okay? It's a different style. Your body mechanics and your style will be different from somebody else's.
Fair.
For someone, this is the right sword. For someone else, this is the right sword. If you give these swords to the opposite people, they'll both be wrong.
Fair.
So,
Okay, that's fair.
with that, one of my recommendations is, even if you love everything we do today, you don't immediately run out and buy a sword.
Yeah, fair. Okay.
Because you don't know what your right sword is to start picking your measurements. We have a rather significant collection. We're going to let you try them as time goes on, get a feel for them, and there'll be a point when you do kind of know what you're looking for in a sword. At that point, you can ask us and we can help you guide if you need a little bit of work on the details, but just know that for the general rule, we'll provide you swords, and when you're actually ready to do it, to buy something, if you do choose to buy something, yeah, don't rush into it. We'll help you find your sword that fits you, okay? One more thing about the blade. You see how it shakes?
Yes.
You see how it shakes differently from here up and here down?
Yes.
So at this point, this is called the point of percussion, okay? So typically, if you're just holding the handle and you hit near the pommel, you'll get that shake, and it always shakes at the same spot. The point of percussion changes on each sword, but there is a difference in displacement of a sword. So if you have your sword out, if I hit this sword, raise it up just a little bit more. If I hit the sword with a weak here, and I'm going to go about this far and hit straight, knocks it over that much, right? Mm-hmm. Now, point of percussion is right there, right?
Yep.
So if I bring this with a point of percussion over,
okay. There's more force in it.
Right. Now, so the concept of the strong and the weak, you think it's consistent down the blade. It's actually not. The point of percussion has some sort of jump to it, and I don't understand necessarily the physics of why. What I do know is that 1 inch above the point of percussion and 1 inch below the point of percussion is a huge difference, and that's always true. Now, it'll still be more when you get lower into the strong because you have the whole mass of the blade beyond your sword.
Right.
It'll still be less when you have the weak because you can block weak on the strong, etc. But if you're trying to parry a sword and like knock it over, knowing where your point of percussion is on your sword and putting that just past your sword will make a difference. Okay? All right, so now we're going to talk about holding the sword. So go ahead and just like grab a sword, like assume the sword fighting position, like you're ready to fight me.
Oh God. Okay.
Okay. So I have you do this because everybody does it wrong.
Which is fair.
And I'm going to explain why it's wrong, right? So first off,
does it need to be more back here?
that is a little bit better, but it can be on either side. So the first thing I'm going to cover is when everybody grabs a sword, they do what they call a hammer fist, and they do it right by the guard, okay? You're also doing it with a bent wrist like this.
Oh.
Okay, so first off, this guard is meant to protect you, right?
Yes.
If you have the hammer fist up against that guard that way, and I have a sword at this angle, you see how it doesn't take much to hit your hand?
Thumb's gone, yeah.
Right. Now, if you put your thumb sideways here, and then turn your hand sideways, all right, and you keep your hand at about that distance. Now, if I want to hit your hand, I need to come way further. Okay, so this prevents your hand from being hit nearly as easily. It makes the guard significantly more effective. If your hand slides up in combat and it's on the guard, it's not a huge deal, but you're more likely to take a hand shot around your guard if it's all the way up. So keeping a one thumb down there does a couple of things. The other thing is there's a position we call ox, where you hold the sword up this way, and you need that thumb to brace. Now, some people will do what they call fingering the blade, because you're doing a hammer grip here and put it on the blade. But when you do that, your thumb is completely exposed in front of the guard.
Right.
If you do it here behind the guard, you're safe. There's some differences with the balance of the sword. Some swords will be made so that you hold near the center and that you have that thumb inch protection. Other swords will have a handle deliberately at the top that tell you that you're supposed to thumb the blade. For these, the arch is kind of here in the middle.
Yes.
So having a hand here is fine, okay? I think most of our swords are this way, okay? So one, you're going to do it down this way. Two, you're not going to hammer grip this way, okay? If you hammer grip a sword and then you move the point around, you feel the strain in your forearm? Mm-hmm. All right, so instead of doing that, you're going to take this across the knuckle here to the wrist. So it goes at an angle across.
Okay.
And then you're going to pinch with the thumb and these two fingers.
Oh, sorry. Like this? So,
all right, so
I have this all wrong, don't I?
It's close, it's close. Yeah, I'm going to just put this down.
Sorry.
All right, so straighten out your hand, and then you're going to run across.
Okay. And
then you're going to pinch like this. Right. I'm sorry, I think I did the wrong side of your hand there, this way. So, do your hand open. So on this side,
okay.
Now pinch.
Okay.
And then that should catch a little bit better, okay? All right, so when you do this pinch grip here,
yeah.
You've got your thumb width down, your hand's further protected. This is called a pinch grip or a pistol grip, okay? This leaves your sword more relaxed. So there's a couple of things with that. If you do a hammer grip and you want to point the sword straight, you see my arm is at an angle. Mm-hmm. But if I do a pinch grip, I can go more straight with the sword. The other thing is, if I take my backhand on the pommel and I move the point around.
There's a lot more fluidity with it.
Right, and you don't feel that tension we were just talking about before in your forearm.
Right.
So one of the issues is that when you hammer grip, you tighten your forearm. It makes your sword stiff and hard to move, and it tires out your arm. Oh. So as a basic stance and a basic grip, we're going to start with a pistol grip with a released hand. Now, the concern is, like, will I drop my sword, right? The reason people hammer grip it is because they're afraid to drop their sword.
Right.
So just hold it with a pistol grip, and you're just going to pinch on those fingers, point the blade at me. All right, now pinch it as hard as you can. I was not expecting that.
Sorry, I think I'm in the early stages of carpal tunnel.
Carpal tunnel, okay.
Sorry.
That's a little bit of surprise. So, all right, well,
I work with like super tiny things like this, so that's
okay.
That's
I'll have you do it to me as an inverse.
We can try this. We'll try left hand. I'm left hand dominant with a gun, so okay.
Okay. Well, why don't you do this? Theoretically speaking, if you pull my sword.
Okay.
And you can see these two fingers are released, right? So if you...
Do I need to wrap this finger? I've been doing it like...
So these two fingers
yes.
should come around, and then you're going to pinch.
Okay, I think I've had it kind of wrong.
So that now you can kind of pinch with that hand. Okay. There we go. All right. That worked successfully. So that pinch grip this way, you're pinching it against like your knuckle here, not the tip of your finger. This would be awkward.
Yeah, so that's where I went absolutely wrong.
Okay, I should have saw that beforehand.
No, you're good.
But we're working on this. This is why we're testing it. So with that, you pinch, and I should be able to pull.
Yeah. And
you're not going to lose your sword.
Okay.
If I can pull your whole body weight, you're not losing this sword, and it's not going to go flying out of your hands because you have a pinch grip, okay? The other thing is, you're going to have another hand on here. So even if you did pull it out of this hand, which you can grab my blade, I can still pull it with the back hand on the pommel.
That's true.
So with those two hands on the sword, you should be fine with a loose pinch grip because you still have good control. You should be able to hold pretty well with that catch on the first hand. You should be able to hold pretty well with the back hand on the pommel. So if your sword is stripped or pulled, it won't be but accidentally unless you just let go of the sword.
Right.
If you let go of the sword, it doesn't matter whether it's a hammer grip or a pinch grip because you're no longer holding the sword as soon as you let go.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I mean, at that point, you don't have to worry about dropping your sword. It's gone.
Yeah. So. All right. So we talked earlier about doing the sword across your hand. you'll note that the sword handle is flat, not round.
Yes.
Okay? When you put it across your hand this way and hold it, that flat is called the index. All right, the index lets you feel in your hand which way the edge is facing. Okay? It also makes it easier to hold the sword. Some hammers are a little bit flat on the side. I don't know if you've never noticed that. If you have a fully round handle and you're trying to do a pinch grip, it reduces the surface area, and therefore it's actually harder to hold the sword. So a flat-handled sword on the sides lets you get a better grip for pinch grip. So again, letting that work pretty effectively. And you saw I was able to pull you, so pretty straight, right? Next thing is, mentioned earlier that your wrist was bent.
Yes.
We don't want to do that, okay? I'm going to show you why. So if you bend your wrist back, all right, and you bring your sword forward like you're going to stab at me, all right, resist the blade, but you're going to bend the wrist. So bend your wrist back. All right, so we're going to push. You feel that awkward on your feeling on your wrist? So that's the same as when you're arm wrestling and you try to pull the wrist back and then your arm gives, right? So even when you go forward with the arm, if you were coming at me and then you push your arm inward this way, and then I push into the blade, you got to resist.
Oh, sorry.
All right, so now do the wrist in. That's out, in. There we go. All right, so now you can feel the same thing. Like I'm pushing into your fingers with the sword, and you end it automatically correct because you feel like you're about to drop the sword. It's going to be pushed out, right?
Yeah.
So you don't want your wrist ever like this or this. Now, I say ever. Like what I said before, everything we teach you here, there is another way to do it at another time or another reason.
Start with the fundamentals and learn it.
Yeah. As a default, you want your wrist straight. Okay? That means that when I'm bringing the sword side to side, I'm not doing this wrist thing.
Yeah.
Okay? I'm moving from the elbow this way and this way. Okay? You see that I can keep the wrist straight all the way through, and now I've got the sword on the left side and the right side, and it's not ever leaving a straight wrist. So when I'm fighting, I'm not putting myself at risk at the bind.
That's fair.
All right, so we're also going to bend the elbows slightly.
Okay.
So if you go with your arms straight out like this, which is a typical thing I see with people take their initial sword stance,
which is fair,
is you get an uppercut into the sword. It'll jam your wrist and your elbow. It will hurt. You'll wish you hadn't done that.
Yeah, that's fair.
You put a slight bend, and you'll still have plenty of strength to hold your hit, and it won't jam those parts. It'll spring into your muscles, okay?
Mm-hmm.
So the next thing is shoulders back, okay? You want to kind of push out your chest and bring your shoulders back. Now, this one's a little counterintuitive. You typically want to reach forward, so you're thinking shoulders forward is better. And if you're thrusting, in the middle of a thrust, by all means, do that. But, excuse me. If you're practicing to learn to block, and you bring your sword forward, so strike forward here a little bit, okay? If you practice with your shoulders forward, bring your shoulders all the way forward, and then we're practicing the form here, right? Mm-hmm. If I bring this around and you're strong on, weak on my strong, so I got the superior position, and I'm pushing into it, your shoulders are going to sort of give if we're in a real fight, particularly if you're in like a high position, right?
Makes sense.
So if you train with your arms forward, and then while we're fighting, you push back, like because I'm pushing really high and above you, right? Mm-hmm. Well, then now your position falls back, and now I can hit you, right?
Yeah, fair.
So what we need to do is train you with your shoulders in the worst position, sort of all the way back, right? so that you train your form to be far enough to successfully block a hit at an angle that will stop the sword, and you're not worried about getting like hit in the face. Now in this case you have strong and weak, but if I have strong here, right, that actually leads to the next point. So we're going to train arms bent, wrists straight, and the next thing is we always cut and block with the edge. In Kendo, for example, they have a dull side of the sword. That's what they use to block. They don't use the sharp edge because they don't want to damage their edge.
Which makes sense.
These swords are double-sided, and it's made from spring steel, different metal than what they use for the Kendo swords.
Right.
So they'll take little dings in the swords. Our fetters not so much, but whenever we have one that's based off of a real long sword, you'll see that it puts notches into the swords when they actually hit each other.
Right.
They call it biting, okay? So you don't want to fight with the side, because if you turn your sword sideways and then try and push against mine,
It'll bend.
yeah, it bends like a fishing pole pretty hard, right?
Yeah.
And that's not just the synthetic ones, the steel ones do too. If you do it edge to edge, you feel that it locks better, right?
Yeah.
Now, there'll be times when you deliberately will adjust that and change it, like I say, but the default rule is you cut and you block with edge, okay? All right, so now we're going to go, I told you there's three things that are really important, okay?
Yes.
The first one, strong and the weak,
Yes.
okay? Catching the blade. The second one is measure. So measure is the distance between you and your opponent reaching out. Like you're measuring the distance to your target, right?
Makes sense.
So there's a couple things to be aware of. Well, one is you're always going to be gauging your measure. It's going to be really important that when you're fighting that you're adjusting your measure.
Right.
And when you're able to reach and hit your opponent, you're in measure. When you're
Out of measure, which makes sense.
yeah, you're out of measure, you can't hit, right? So there is a arc to your measured cut from your forward shoulder. So using the wall here, if I use this sort of dotted line, I go straight from my shoulder, that hits the wall. Now, if I'm going for your knee and I go down, I lose 6 inches. So, right?
Okay.
It'll vary per weapon, which means I need to be closer to hit a leg shot than to hit straight from my arm. Because of a height difference, my straight shot is your head, your straight shot is more or less my chest here. So you'll be more likely to get a thrust there. That also means that just like going down, if you go up,
I would miss your head.
you have a harder reach to hit my head. Your best shot is going to be the chest. Now, if I want to go for your legs, I've got this straight shot here. If I go for this, I miss. If I want to make it more likely to hit the legs,
Yep.
I need to squat or move forward.
Yeah, that makes sense.
All right. The other thing is strong side, weak side. In swordsmanship, they don't use, for the most part, left and right. We use strong and weak. That means I can instruct multiple students at the same class at the same time, whether they're left or right-handed.
Right.
So when I talk about, we hold strong hand at the top and then weak hand at the bottom, all right? Of course, if you're ambidextrous, it doesn't matter. I'm still teaching you the same class.
Which is fair, yeah.
Right. So if I'm taking my measure, strong side forward for full measure to touch you, right?
Okay.
If I transition weak side forward, I lose the measure of my sword across my body, and then my sword is now much shorter.
Yes.
So I've lost a significant amount of measure fighting from my weak side. When I cut, I want to extend the strong side for that reach. So I can actually cut from here and risk a hit. But if I'm trying to hit you and you're moving to the left, I'm going to have trouble. This is why you see swordsmen circling each other.
That makes sense.
So if we're sparring this way, you want to move to my left to shorten my reach.
Yes, because then it would put it back on your weak side, soft side.
Right. So the end result is
it weak?
I want to step to your weak and you want to step to mine. So I'm going to step this way. And if you stop, then I have a reach advantage. And if I stop, you have a reach advantage.
Which makes sense.
Now, if I'm left-handed,
then I'm going the other way.
right. But I'm actually going to go this way because you are still on that hand, right? I want to be on that side. Now that you're moving this way, I'm actually at advantage because you're moving to my strong side.
Ah, that's fair. Okay.
So if you're right-handed versus right-handed, I'm going to move right to your left, and you're going to move right to my left. If we're left-handed, I'm going to move left, and you're going to move left to get to my right?
Right.
If I'm right, if you're right-handed and I'm left-handed, you want to step to this side, and I want to step to this side. So we walk in a straight line.
That's fair.
So same thing if I was right and you were left-handed, right? So. The other thing, last thing for measure is your knuckles indicate what we call the true edge. When you cut down, which is the natural way to cut,
right,
you'll do true edge, and I'm able to touch you. If I cut with the back side of my hand away from my knuckles, this is the false edge of the blade.
It's the false edge?
Yes. So typical true edge, false edge. And you'll see that true edge, I can touch you, and then false edge, I cannot.
Oh, yeah, it's...
Because the arm wraps, right? This is because the muscle tightens up in the arm. We have a whole class dedicated to false edge strikes, so don't worry about that now. But suffice to say, there's definitely a thing in swordsmanship that you're going to have to learn.
Of course.
When and how. But initially, know that fighting with the false edge is a loss of measure. And typically, you're going to fight with the last inch of the blade. So you have to be closer for a false edge cut, or you can be further for a true edge.
Okay.
All right. So now we're going to go over stance. So I've corrected all your hand stuff, right? So grab all your sword. All right, you're holding that straight wrist, elbows bent, shoulders back. Okay, go ahead and bring the shoulders back a little bit more. All right, now I've got to fix a few more things.
Sorry.
Well, no, because we're not all the way done with your body, right? So the first thing I need to fix is your feet.
Okay.
So this tendency is to just stand this way. This is natural, right? The problem is, if I swing a sword at you, you automatically have to sort of step back, right?
Yes.
So we do a thing where we make what we call, we do like a 90-degree angle. So if this is our line of approach, I'm going to make an angle in this box, and I'm going to turn sideways with my stance. Okay?
Okay.
Now, why are we doing the feet like this? If you bend your knees a little bit, well, let's do it the wrong way first. Point your toes at me. All right. Now, without moving your feet,
oh God.
and you're not going to, don't block, try and dodge. All right. Now, you feel it in your lower back?
Yep.
Okay. Now, do a sideways, like 90-degree there, both toes back. Now, you're going to bend your back knee and do the same thing.
Yeah.
So I swing at you, you're able to bend on there. And you don't even need to bend your back this way. Bend your knee over your knee. Tracking that?
That feels so weird.
It feels weird to everybody at first. So you're not used to standing this way. So,
right.
But when you get used to it, you're now able to point that toe back and stand on, push off of that foot, right? You can't push off your foot backwards this way. You can lean forward and you can lean back,
right.
But your feet hold the weight this way, right?
Right.
With this way, you can push off your back toe to lean forward into a thrust or a cut, and then back off of your front. It allows this play movement.
Yeah.
Okay? That play movement is really good for, and I think maybe we were too close with the camera there, but that play movement of being able to move back this way allows you to sort of test in at your opponent. You can also twist this ankle to drive in with a strike, right? Not twisted as in hurt it, but
No. Twist is like a, yeah.
So I'm pushing off my toes to do a full body swing. If you have your feet straight like this, you're fishing poling, and you can do a downward strike, but you're not really in a position to push off this leg other than kind of like a hop forward that way. This is like a straight from where your foot are planted. Even without moving your feet, you can thrust in, thrust back, attack, cut, right?
Okay.
So it allows you to play with measure. Now when I'm saying that this is the foot position, this is the foot position you need at the edge of measure and in measure. So when I'm here, and I risk being able to attack you.
Yes.
If I'm back here, I don't care what your foot position is.
That's fair.
So if you want to walk casually back here, but when I get into close, I shift. You may have seen this in some movies and stuff, that they kind of shift into a lower position. They're bending their knees, they're pointing the toe back, and they're like, this is the ready to fight. Back here, I wasn't. If you charge in on me, I might actually shift immediately back with that toe away.
Which makes sense.
Right? Okay. All right, so the line of approach is the line directly between the two of us. And we'll shift at that to some degree, like I said, circling or moving, right?
Right.
So I need to constantly move to follow you with my line of approach so that my line of approach lines up with you. I don't necessarily want yours to line up with me, but
fair.
Also, when I did the foot, I had the angle, right? Mm-hmm. We have to either side. I talked about a third important thing.
Yes.
What we talk about is the line of defense. So when you stand up on this line, when you did the sword earlier, you kind of did it like this in the middle. This is the last really important thing we're going to correct, okay? So you get your triangle stance, point your toe away, and as a point of note, don't try and do your foot sideways. This is how they do it in Olympic fencing, on really straight floors under controlled conditions.
Right.
One, you can push your toe off there, but you can push your toe back here. The real danger is that if you hop back on uneven ground or something, you can
roll your ankle.
So by having your toe back, you don't really do that, okay? So, I mean, it's theoretically possible you can trip on flat ground and roll your ankle, but
of course,
for safety's sake, make sure you point the toe just a little bit back. If you have it even or forward, you can't do that. But so now that we get your foot, we want you to take the pommel and put it to the hip, and the point of the blade across the body, right? When you have it straight the way you have it here, if I attack straight down, you're not defended.
Correct.
So you want to point this point, the point of your sword, at the opposite ear from your pommel.
Okay.
Now, you don't want to put it wide because I have this come at you, right?
Yeah.
And walk forward. Now walk forward.
Okay, yeah, fair.
So a sword in your face is a good deterrent to prevent you from walking forward. So you want it close enough to the face to threaten it. To the other side as far as you can go and still be near the face.
Right.
So pointing it at this ear is a reasonable place. If you point at this ear, you're undefended on this side.
Right.
And if you point further than this ear, then you're sort of so far to the side, I just take strong and the weak and threaten you back, right?
Right.
So that's kind of the mix. That's the kind of the target you go for is the other ear. Now, you've got this position.
How are you? What are you? Oh, okay.
Right? Well, so you're switched hands? You're right-handed?
Predominantly, sometimes.
So put your strong hand at the top. All right, now take the sword and put it at the pommel. Right, there you go. So you switched your feet. That's the thing I was going to show you. So if you line your toes up, Now, on this hand side, I'm uncrossed. If I step, I swivel, and I cross my wrist. So you were trying to mimic my crossed wrist, but that's because you were on the wrong side because we're mirrored to each other.
Yes.
So if you're in this position and I'm cutting, I would step forward, recreate my triangle, and I'm striking down on your sword.
Okay.
My wrists are uncrossed, and so are yours, because we're facing the opposite direction.
Right.
Right?
But then, so if I had done, say, this.
Right. And then now we're both crossed, or kind of.
Oh, wait, hold on.
You switched your hands. That's what happened.
Bad habit. My bad.
Okay. So what I'm trying to show you with this is resting with the arm on the body,
Yes.
the sword all the way back, and then switched, resting with the front arm across the
Hold
body.
on. Sorry.
Right. All right. So now you're creating the triangle on this side.
Oh.
Now, so we're gonna do a step where you step over, and then attack, and then step over and attack.
Okay.
If I'm, we'll do it at a catty corner to give us a little more room.
Okay.
Okay, so at this point we'll just run the drill. So I'm going to, actually, let's switch.
Okay.
I'm going to be in the corner because I'm going to attack first to let you defense first.
All right.
All right, so I'm going to attack to your guarded side first. I step through, and I attack, and I pull back. Okay?
And so I'll step back, right?
Well, you're going to respond to me attacking.
Oh, okay.
Okay?
So then-
because you're not going to defend where I'm not attacking you, right?
That's fair.
Okay? So,
Okay, so it would've-
I'm going to walk you back. We're going to do a walking drill where you defend, and then we get you to the corner, then you're going to attack back, all right?
Okay.
So then I attacked and I pull back, so then I'm going to step, and you're crossing that defense.
Okay.
All right, and then I'm gonna, right?
Yeah.
Now, I'm going to attack and pull back. I want to attack at measure,
Okay.
and then I'm going to pull back because I'm afraid of the strong on the weak. If I leave this sword here, you can control my weapon.
Yeah.
I don't want to give you that control.
Okay.
So I'm attacking. It fails. I pull back to defend myself.
Right.
Okay. All right, so I'm going to do one more. Okay.
And so when you do that is when I can
Right.
start.
Right.
Okay.
Now,
I like that.
we're going to add one more thing to that, okay? So I'm going to attack, you block. Actually, let's do the inverse. So you have to, take your stand. I'm going to attack and you're going to have to move to block it.
Okay.
So you're responding. Now, if I hold it here, you're going to want to strong to weak. So you're going to want to block close to the body.
Okay.
Now, if you reach out with the sword, I'm able to strike and control.
Yes.
You're in trouble. Strong and the weak.
Yes.
Very important. Okay? If you pull the sword back and I strike at your body, where do I hit?
In my strong.
Right.
And then I can.
And then you have control.
Yes.
So you can do that. You can also just pick up your sword. Well, no.
Oh, what do you mean? Sorry.
So you're going to push the hands to the side.
Yeah.
And then you're going to pick up your pommel towards you this way.
Oh. Okay.
So the whole move that you're doing is not wrong. But
Sorry.
Well, let's go with this more simple move, right? So I strike, and then you counter, and then I want to push back this. So now I'm going to the weak, right? And then I'm going to attack, and then you're going to push the pommel and then point the sword at me.
Okay.
Right? And then I'm going to...
Hold on.
It's complicated. So we'll back up and do it again. So the idea is I strike, and then...
Push up and then
So
lift.
when you block, you're going to push towards the sword. So I
Do
block...
I want to push up or out?
So for the block, you want to push out. You want to push this to make it. Because if you block too close, I can still hit you.
Okay.
So you want to block and then sort of tilt, lean behind. Your foot should go away.
Sorry.
Right. So, but the point is that you're stepping into that position, right? And then I'm striking. And then you want to push that away. And then you can raise up a little and point that blade. Then I'm going to want to not do that.
Fair. Okay.
Right? And then I attack.
And then up, and then back at you, and then...
Right, and so I attack this side. Right.
Okay, yeah, sorry. It's weird, but I'll get...
It's your first day.
That's fair.
Don't expect to be a master swordsman on your first day. If it's awkward, it's because you've never done it.
Yeah.
So we're going to do this a couple more times, and then I'm going to have you attack back.
Okay.
And so I'm attacking with reach, and then...
I think I'm just like, I'm hyper-extending my arms.
So you need to push sideways.
Yes, not...
For the block.
I think I'm just like... Your
first concern is your defense.
Okay.
So being able to catch my sword and counter isn't important if you got hit to begin with.
Fair.
If I kill you, you're not going to block.
Yeah, it doesn't quite matter. Yeah, good point.
So first, block the sword.
Okay.
Then, control my sword. And that's the strong on the weak position, right?
Okay.
Then you can threaten me back, okay? So I strike, you block, now you control, and then, so you controlled it, but you controlled before too. Even with this, if you look, just tilt the sword this way, you have my sword locked out, and you're getting better control. Now you're threatening with the point.
Okay.
And you're gonna point this at me, so my sword's locked, and I'm threatened, okay?
Okay. I think my brain is just trying to fight that it's that simple as just pointing.
Yes, but simple is good, and simple is fast.
Very true.
Okay, so, right? And then I'm like, and then,
okay.
Don't respond to the block until I throw the cut.
Which makes sense.
So I do this, and I push back.
Oh, until you do the cut, right.
Right. So I'm gonna strike, and then pull back to defend myself.
Yeah.
And then...
Which means I go back to the normal.
Yeah, ready. And then I strike. Right. And so I'm pulling back to be like, nope.
Yeah.
And another thing is, I actually did that wrong myself. I don't want to pull the sword back this way.
Okay.
I want to pull the sword back this way.
Okay.
Now, the reason is because if I pull this sword this way, then you are now behind my line of defense.
Which, that's fair. Okay.
Okay. We just told you that was one of the three important things,
yes.
right? So instead of doing this way, I'm going to do this.
Okay.
Now, if you thrust forward, my defense is there, but also a thrust is just this.
Oh, is it?
Yeah. So this is a cut, and this is a thrust. Okay. No. First day. So I had you like this, where I attack, and then I pull straight back, and if you thrust forward, I displace.
That. Okay.
Okay. So.
Okay.
So you assume your stance, and then I cut, and then you're gonna back into plow, right, and then I cut, and then you threaten, right, and then I pull back, and then I cut.
Do you want me to?
No, go into plow because you're not.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
And then we're gonna do your attack in just a second.
I think it's the mental go back to square one.
Right.
Each time.
Plow, because you're gonna block.
Right.
And then it's kind of like a threaten, right? And so you switch.
What did I do? Okay, my bad.
So here, and then you're controlled the strong, okay? And then you threaten, and I'm like, nope. Right, I'm gonna pull straight back.
Yep.
Right?
And then
I'll attack this side. Nope. Okay. And again, I did that wrong. You saw I draw it over. Gotta bring it straight back, okay? And then if I just release.
When you come back, I need to come back. Okay.
Right. If I just release, it's because my attack failed, and I'm not playing with that.
That's fair.
Right, and I'm keeping that point over. I brought it back that time, I didn't draw it across, right?
Right.
Bring it back, and if you push back with that sword strike, with a thrust, then I'm fine, right?
Okay.
Okay, now I'm gonna do it one more time for you, and then, right? You threaten, all right? Now I pulled back, now you're gonna counterattack. So attack,
Okay.
right, and then, okay, we missed, but you know what, that's fine.
That's my bad.
No, it's fine, but you wanna reach as far as you can for measure.
Okay.
So part of why that missed is because you did this,
Okay.
okay?
Yeah.
Measure as far as out as you can reach.
Yes.
Okay. So you block close to your body. Blocking, you don't need to block out here. If you block out here, bring it out here, I can just control your sword easier.
Yeah.
And also, what was the threat? If you pull the sword all the way against your body, go ahead, do this, and then I swing.
Yeah.
So that hit nothing though.
Oh, that's fair.
Right. So block to the side that the sword's going on, and if I miss, so what? I didn't hit
That leaves you open here, though. So.
Right.
Okay.
But you want to draw the line of defense.
That's true.
So if I overswing, you move the sword to this side, and then thrust forward with it. Right, and then if I try and come back, you're defended. You're inside my line.
That's fair. Yeah. Okay.
All right, so I swing, and you want to thrust back in, switching sides, or I hit you.
Oh. Okay.
So you need to switch that to the other side, and then you have this line of defense and the hit. Okay.
Yes. Okay.
But don't defend here, right? Swing. Okay. Bring it up more. Okay.
Okay.
So that's fine. I wasn't going to hit you anyway.
No. I know.
So now you're defending. Now you control my sword and counterpoint, right? And then I'm like, nope. Okay. So now, again, blocking strong and weak, fighting at measure. So now you're going to attack. Full measure. Okay. Go ahead.
I'm gonna go full measure.
Yeah, all the way with your arm.
Oh, then wouldn't I want to start here then, so it can?
You're going to swing from either side,
that.
but for the sake of this, yeah. So go ahead, swing.
Okay.
And I'm going to block close to my body. Now, I could have let this pass.
Yes.
I'm blocking here because it's the drill.
That's fair.
So I'm going to step a little bit closer, so I would have been hit.
Yeah. Sorry.
No. You were fine. You're learning your measure. Okay. Learning measure is key. So now you're going to cut to the other side, right? And then I push the threaten, and you want to pull up to defend.
Okay.
All right. So attack, right? And then, all right.
Oh, okay.
So
that was.
So if you attack with just like a hit and then pull back, you don't have to worry about trying to control my blade. Okay. You're going to keep the defense here ready to block however you need. Okay, but if you leave the sword out there, I'm going to control it and push it over.
Okay.
If you want to just attack, that's fine. What you don't do is attack and leave
And then
me.
just leave it. Yeah.
Right.
Okay. Sorry.
No, that's fine. All right, so attack. Right. All right, now attack.
Oh, I just left myself open.
Yeah, you just pulled the sword around and gave me that strike. So that goes back to don't slide the sword off the blade.
Yes.
I did that wrong a second ago, and I was like, don't do that.
Sorry.
Sword goes straight back. If you slide it off the side, you'll expose yourself.
Yes.
Okay, attack again. Good. And now I don't have a sword to play with, so now we're reset.
Yes.
Right. All right, attack again. Almost too far, but you saved it, okay? Say you save that one. All right, now I'm kind of in a corner here, so I'm going to attack back on you, okay? Okay, now your go.
Dang it.
But you overswung it, right?
I did.
So you overswung.
So I need to control how far I swing as well.
You overswung it because you didn't hit me.
Yeah.
If your measure was all the way out, stretch that arm all the way out. No, leave your feet. Stretch it all the way out. Then I'd have to block it, right? Because it could actually hit me with the edge.
That's fair.
If it's here, I'm just going to let it pass, and I'm going to counter back in on you.
Okay.
Okay?
All right.
All right?
Wait. Oh, my bad.
That's fine. Push more with the hands because I was over your chest, right? If I had pushed forward, I'd have got you. All right, now attack. Okay.
Dang it.
So I should have brought that over more, right? Because you had swung through. If I brought through this, that'd have been better. I want to lock the sword so you have defense. All right, but go ahead and swing.
Okay, so I'm just not stepping close enough at all.
Just full. See how your arm is bent?
Yes.
That's what's making your cut short.
Oh, I need to...
Now grab the pommel. No, but grab that.
Oh.
And now straighten your strong arm out as far as you can. So reach. There you go. That's the reach you're going for.
Okay.
Okay? All right, now cut to the other side. Okay, now pull back to plow. All right, now cut to the other side. Right, and now see, this was, I had to block, it would have hit me.
Yes.
Okay, so this arm is all the way straight.
Yes.
That's the maximum measure.
Okay.
That's what you're going for.
Yes.
Okay, this makes me defend, okay? Now to the other side. Right?
I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. I'm wearing a cup.
Okay.
And also, I did stop the impact with the sword.
Yes.
It bounced and then came down. So I got an after blow.
It happens.
Barely felt it.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. And then you strike. Right? And that was a danger to me. I blocked close to my body, and of course, strong on weak. It stops every time.
Yes.
But that was a threat. So right here is good enough. If I have 1 inch in front of my body and out past my shoulder, it can't hit my arm, and you get stopped before you hit my body.
That's true.
Okay? So I counterattack. Ooh.
Yeah. Ooh.
So I pulled down a little bit, but that would have been a hit across your body.
Yeah.
You need to push to the side more.
Okay.
Okay?
I need to, that. Okay.
Yeah. Right? And if you pull the sword up, no, pull the sword back closer to your body.
Okay. Would have passed. Okay.
All right? And then cut.
Oh, my turn?
Yep. Right? And those would have all been threatening hits, right?
Okay.
So I needed to block those. Strong on weak, good to go.
Yes.
Okay, so that's the basic drill. You strike, you pull back. If you do get someone stop on your blade, you're going to push and then push over. If they fall short, let them miss. Then, so if you swing on me out of measure, and then I want to catch and push back in, right? If I can catch strong on weak, and then get this control, I've got you, right? Because you can't come back, particularly if I can lock this guard in this way. You can see I can tilt it up.
Yeah.
I can lock that sword in position there. And then your only option really
It's to just
try and back up, try and take a step away.
Yeah.
Okay? So that's lesson 1. Remember the 3 things. Full measure with the arm,
Yes.
like full measure.
So, yes.
So strong in the weak,
Yes.
block with the strong, and then you're trying to cut with the last inch with the weak there, because you're using full measure.
Yep.
And line of defense, constantly locking in that defense behind you.
Yeah.
If you master this first class, you will be capable.
Okay.
Even people who have been doing this for a while,
Go back on fundamentals.
yeah, if they mess up this stuff. It takes a while though. Practice will. Blood and Iron has this cool quote. It says, if you don't put in the training, you won't get the results. That is to say, if you want to be good at this, the only way to really do it is practice the drills and actually spar. Then you'll get a feel for measure. It will become natural. Whenever you feel like you're losing in the bind, it is 100% the position of the strong on the weak. If you lock blades, okay, you feel I'm stronger. Of course, it's because I'm strong on the weak. If you're in the middle here and you're like, oh, you got that position, okay, you can feel that as soon as I do that, right?
Yeah.
You feel that pressure.
Yes.
And then also, you don't want to fight this close with a measure, because now if I try and retreat, you can actually easily follow me with a blade. Now, there's exceptions to the rules. There is actually a close measure fighting.
Yes.
We'll get to that. We'll explain more what that is and why, but that's later. Okay. So for right now, learn to attack at the edge. Okay.
Okay.
All right. And that is class 1.
All right.
Now, they won't all be that long, but the first one is long because
It's fundamentals. I fully understand.
I needed to give each student at least enough to spar where I feel safe that they could not just get plowed in the head every time.
Fair. Is that your phone?